What's up, everybody? It's been a long time. I wanted to make this video because I exited YouTube with a lot of people wondering what was really going on. I mean, I kind of explained it in the video a little bit, but I figured, for those of you who have been with me forever, or for those of you who have found my channel either through EDP shouting it out, which was nice of him the other day. I didn't expect him to do that. And everything else. I wanted you guys to find out, exactly what happened. So, here's what happened in a nutshell. And we're talking about of all the things that could have happened wrong at the exact same time. It literally, in the span of 3 or 4 months of 2019, literally just, it taught me many lessons, but it also taught me, and this is something I've been throughout my life, is resilient. So here's how this whole thing goes down. 2017, let's backtrack a little bit. 2018, I moved down from Massachusetts to Tennessee. I was fine where I was at work, working for Holiday Inn. But there were certain things that were going on that the upper management, they would always sit back and blame you for not doing your job, and then when they would mess up, they would blame themselves and they'd admit fault. But it really, to me and a lot of others, but especially me, yeah, they admit fault, but they didn't really, it was a shallow admission. They had to, because logically they had to, but at the end of the day, nobody was holding them accountable to the extreme that they were holding everyone else accountable. And so, a guy who I met in 2015, when I went down to Gatlinburg from Massachusetts with Holiday Inn to train, was working for a different company called Exploria. Well, Exploria was owned by a company that I used to work for called Cerberus. They're a hedge fund company. And for those of you who are wondering what's going on, I'm literally in my car driving back from North Carolina, which I'll explain later on in the video. So anyway, the hedge fund company, I used to work with all of them. I knew everybody from the upper management. The pay plan was a ton better. Moving to Tennessee, just from a lifestyle comparison, there was no match. I mean, where I was in the Berkshires, it's getting bad. There's violence there every day. It's sort of turning into a downtown Boston, if you will. Like the places like Mattapan and Dorchester. It's not as bad, but it's close, and it's getting there. The only mall in that area literally is shut down because they couldn't pay the rent or the bill or whatever group owns that mall. They've had other issues with other malls in other states. So literally, to go anywhere, you had to drive either to Colony area of New York, or you had to drive to Springfield, Mass, and everything else, Westfield and Chicopee and all those places. So I took a look at that. I took a look at the snow. I took a look at the real estate taxes. I took a look at the fact that in Massachusetts, for those of you who know this, you got to pay a tax just to own a car, not sales tax, a separate tax just to have a car. And then when I found out what I was going to be making with Exploria, and the fact that it was Tennessee, and they don't have a state income tax, and they don't have this, and they don't have that, excuse me, and the property taxes were not even close to what I was paying in Massachusetts for houses that were double or triple the size, square footage-wise, I said, you know what? I never thought I'd ever do this. I never thought I'd ever leave Massachusetts to live, even though I did for a year when I lived out in Illinois in 2012, 2013. But I knew, in the back of my head, it was my first time ever being promoted to a sales director, and I tried to make the best of it that I could, but mitigating factors just kept piling up and up and up. And I think subconsciously in the back of my head, I knew I could always move back. And so that might have subconsciously held me back a tiny bit. I don't really think it did, but whatever. So anyway, I moved down here to Tennessee. Best decision I ever made, and it still is. I still believe to this day it was the correct move. Now, everything's fine until 2019 hits. Beginning of 2019, they took a step back. The company I had worked previously for a long time. Well, this company that I'm working for them again, under the Exploria umbrella, and they literally gave our entire department, and well, first of all, it was the entire company, but we were on a much larger scale because we were such a smaller site in Gatlinburg that they literally had 3 pay cuts in 3 months and changed our pay plan. If that wasn't bad enough, it had gotten to the point where literally, in the industry that I worked in, it had gotten to the point where literally, in a sales job, imagine talking to homeless people and you're trying to sell them whatever you're trying to sell them. Doesn't matter if it's pens, doesn't matter if it's shoes. If they don't work and they don't have jobs and they don't have an income, or if they do have an income, they work at Subway 5 hours a week, you're not really going to sell a lot of people. So we would be seeing a majority of those people, and then the qualifications to actually finance them went up. And so, at least in Gatlinburg, it was a uphill battle, to say the least. On top of the fact that our pay was getting cut 3 times in literally a span of 3 months. So the guy who had brought me down and recruited me knew a guy in the solar industry. And he used to be in the industry we were in. But the solar industry guy, or the guy who's in the solar industry, had been in there for 10 years. He had made vice president of the company he used to work for. And he had bought half of the company, so it was him and the guy who had hired him. They were running the entire company. They were out in Georgia, they were out in Texas, they were out in North and South Carolina, and they wanted to expand into Tennessee. So the guy that knew the guy who recruited me, he recruited him to run Tennessee. And my job there for the solar company was literally to train all the new hires and travel from state to state and do that. That's the job I wanted. I did not want to go door to door selling solar. Now, solar is an easy sale. It's just math, especially that because you're paying for electricity anyway. That's not the hard part. The hard part is driving all over creation. You're a 1099. If the people don't show up for their appointment that they set themselves, then you drove for nothing. And those were, not to say fears, but those were, I'm not a fan of that. When I drive somewhere, I want somebody to be there. Whether regardless if they buy or not, at least they're there, and I had an opportunity. I just had a feeling from what I had seen and heard other people do door-to-door sales in the past, it's not something I wanted to do. Well, they were fine with that. They expected to have somebody to run the Chattanooga, Tennessee market. And they couldn't find anybody, so they asked if I would. And then they would find somebody, and then I'd do my normal job that I was hired to do. Well, I didn't want to move to Chattanooga. That made no sense to me. I have a mortgage in Massachusetts still on a house that I'm renting out. I have a mortgage here in Gatlinburg. Then what, you want me to rent? You know what I mean? I have 2 dogs. You want me to rent? That defeats the whole purpose. If somebody doesn't pay the mortgage in either of those 2 places, I'm on the hook for those mortgages plus the rent I have in Chattanooga. So they agreed to let me stay in a hotel. They would pay a majority of it, and I would pay some of it, and I was like, okay, fine, whatever. And so I did that for about a month and a half to 2 months. However, the Chattanooga market, that market in Tennessee, a lot of people claim they own their homes and really didn't. In their heads they did, because they would tell us, well, I mean, I have a rent-to-own set up, we just haven't started it yet. So in their heads, they own the house. Or we'd talk to the husband, but the wife wasn't there, or vice versa. Or we would talk to people who literally were unemployed, or whatever the case was. It was bad. It wasn't, here in the Sevier County area, it was great, but Chattanooga was a whole different animal, and unfortunately, it was the only part of our company at the time that was dealing with as many marketing shenanigans as possible. So that wasn't working out too well. 2 weeks after that, we have this huge meeting as a company, and we find out that the guy who recruited me, the guy who had made vice president, the guy who had worked for the company for 10 years and bought half, well, him and his business partner were splitting up over disagreements on how quickly we were moving as a company to expand. We were doing so well in the entire state of Tennessee, more so Sevier County than Chattanooga, but we were still holding our own in Chattanooga, even with all the shenanigans with marketing, that the guy who recruited us wanted to continue expanding. The other guy who was in charge of the installations, really, he was the analytical of the group, he was the engineer of the group, he was freaking out because he couldn't keep up with the home installations. So all of this commission that not just me, not just myself, but the entire company was owed here in Tennessee, all of these employees, We had one guy working for us that was owed over $100,000 in commissions. I wasn't nearly that high because I was running the Chattanooga site. The guy who was owed over $100,000, he literally would take 5-6 appointments a day, 7 days a week. He was that dedicated to making money, and he was a great salesperson. Great salesperson. I met a lot of great ones in my life. He was very, 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 very good. But anyway, he was owed over $100,000. I was owed somewhere close to $30,000. We were never going to see any of that commission. It was never going to happen. It wasn't going to happen because the engineer had literally canceled all of the contracts that we had written and sent out letters refunding everybody's money, sending out letters saying that we couldn't keep up with the installations and it would take forever, and so we're just going to give them the option to continue the installation or get their money back. Well, what do you think people did? 99% of the consumer base said, I want my money back. So that was $30,000 that I was expecting that I wasn't getting. I was then promised by the guy who recruited me to come down to Tennessee for the first industry we were working in, the guy who I'd met previously in 2015. He was starting a solar company with the other half, the vice president of the first company. Well, they were starting their own solar company together, and I was promised I'd be taken care of. I was promised a salary, and I was promised this, and I was promised that. Well, for about a month, everything was fine. But then we find out, he let me know early, around October, he goes, listen, we're going to take away the salaries. We need time to get up and running. We're dying down. It's the slow season. We're not going to have salaries anymore until possibly January of 2020. Well, that was my only source of income. Factor in the fact that the $30,000 that I was owed, I was never going to see. What am I going to do? Right? What am I going to do? So I literally applied for 1 million jobs, okay, all over the place, from Aaron's Rent-A-Center to grocery stores to, I got recruited heavily by insurance company sales, but that's another 1099 gig, and after my experience with solar is a lot easier, in my opinion, than insurance. If somebody has insurance through their work, yeah, there's different kinds, but, it's a waste of time. So I had plenty of opportunity to go to 1099, but again, if you don't sell anything, you don't make any money. I needed money. I needed income coming in. I still have an overhead. Meanwhile, while this whole thing is going on, I'm being heavily recruited by Holiday Inn to come back and work for the company. But out of loyalty to the guy who brought me down in 2018, I said no. Well, now in October, I go back to them. And what do you think they said? Well, they didn't say anything. It was crickets. The director who was there in Gatlinburg wanted me very badly. We had worked previously together with the same company that ended up selling themselves to Holiday Inn. Holiday Inn bought Silverleaf Resorts out. He wanted me back, but the upper management, when I had left, they hinted that I would never be welcome back to work for Holiday Inn based on the fact that I was quitting on the company to go to a rival company. So that held true, and nobody said anything. It was Cricket City. Didn't hear a word, didn't hear anything. Well, I'm freaking out because I'm trying to do everything I can to get a job to at least this January for two reasons. I get taxes coming in, and the fact that the salary should be kicking back in of January 2020. Now, while all of this is going on, me and my business partner have a tanning salon that we opened. We opened at the wrong time. It took forever to get the electricity to run. And so what would happen is we were supposed to have opened during tanning season. We ended up opening at the tail end of tanning season around early September. And, it was slim pickings for a while. Now we have all this overhead. We have payments on the tanning beds. We have all this stuff. And I got literally, I'm hemorrhaging money. Hemorrhaging. Now had I not had the business, I think I would have been in a hell of a lot better situation because I had money saved up. But all of that was going to support the business. So I got that going on. I'm owed $30,000. I can't find a job. Supposedly in 2020, I have the salary coming back for the second solar company I was supposed to be working for. Well, I get a job working for Family Dollar for assistant manager. Now look, I don't know if you've ever been in a Family Dollar. I don't know if you've ever been in a Dollar General or a Dollar Tree or any of those stores. And let me tell you something. Being a cashier is one thing. That's easy. But for the upper management that work those stores, and for the ones that literally have to sit there, bring all the crap from out back, open the boxes up, put the merchandise correctly on the shelves, sticker them, make sure the boxes are broken down, and do it in a timely fashion. And then at the end of the night, pick up every single aisle, make sure that everything should be where it's at, go down every aisle. If something's not in the correct aisle, you throw it in a carriage. And then by the time you're done with the entire store, it's your job now to put those things back where they should have gone in the first place. I lasted 1 day. I'm telling you one thing. I give a hell of a lot of credit to those employees that work at those stores, because I know what it's like. It was the most miserable job I think I've ever had in my life. It was so, for me, someone like myself, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I needed to go back to sales. I had to. So I got a job opportunity with another company in a different form of sales like I had previously done for the first 12 years of my selling career, in high-priced items for selling. I worked since I was 14 with commission-based jobs like Funco Land way back in the day, what GameStop is now, Funco Land and all that other stuff. Well, I get a job, thank God. It's an hourly plus commission. Majority of what you sell, the people are not qualified to go into regular presentations, so we see them instead. We have a price point that is manageable if they have any kind of income coming in. But the problem is, to get paid immediately, they have to give the full down payment for what they're purchasing. And if they can't, we pender it, which means almost like a layaway. For those of you who don't know that terminology, it's basically like layaway. Well, we don't get paid as salespeople until the commissions until the down payments are paid. So I've got a ton of, so far, I went in hoping to be a manager because that's what I had been my entire, 99% of my entire career. Well, the guy, even though I had an impressive resume, the guy only promoted from within. I had to prove myself to him. And so 2 weeks in December, out of 12 people there, with only 2 weeks working the entire month, I vaulted myself to 4th. January, I was number 1. February, I was number 1. And currently now in March, I'm number 2. I am 10,000 in sales behind the first place. Now, you may think that's a lot, but that's really only 2 sales for what we do. So I have a shot to win my 3rd month in a row. Well, I was told when I was hired, as long as I proved myself, then I would be heavily looked at to get promoted. And I recently had a meeting, and I found out that I would probably get promoted within the next 2 months. That was before the coronavirus and all the pandemics have hit. I think there's a hiring promotional freeze right now. We're still open. We're still open for business. We're a tourist city, tourist attraction. Apparently, when shit hits the fan in real life, everybody comes to the Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge area, all the surrounding states. So we're heavily... Besides the coronavirus, 12 million people came last year to the Smoky Mountains on vacation, 12 million people. But you can imagine how many people are now because they're trying to get out of either where they live or get out of the house because they're going crazy or whatever. So that's what's going on with me now. Well, while this whole thing is going on, my sister had called and said that one of our family members that we're very close with is going through a rough time, and severely rough time. Well, when you factor in the money I'm hemorrhaging, factor in family's family, when you factor in I don't have a job really, I didn't know what I was going to do. I had a couple different options. I could have sold my house and just moved back to Massachusetts, kicked the family out that was renting the house there and just live there, or live with them. They were paying my mortgage, why not? That really wasn't that realistic, because even if I'd moved back to Massachusetts, what was I going to do for work? Type of industry that I'm in now is, I wouldn't say plentiful down here in Gatlinburg, but where I'm from, where I worked in the Berkshires, there's only that one location, and that's it. And I couldn't go back there because I can't go back to the company. So that wasn't realistic at all. Situation number 2 was to sell my video game collection to help out with that family member, as well as dip into some retirement money, which I have accumulated over, 12, 15 years of working. I'm still young. I'm only 36. So I thought, well, this isn't the ideal scenario here. but I can always build myself back up, especially with the job I currently have. I still have time. If I was 56 or 48 or 44, big difference. But at 36, not ideal, but still had some time. So I sold the entire video game collection with minus a few things. And believe me when I tell you, that was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. Because all of you know that I spent the last 7 years of my life, now 2020 be 8 years, collecting, going on these hunts, going on these pickup things, collecting what I used to have as a kid, and then expanding. Well, I had to sell the whole thing. Now, the difficult thing with that is, it was worth well over six figures, everything combined. The problem is, where are you going to find somebody with that amount of money? Nobody, when they buy a collection like that, is ever going to buy it for what it's worth, right? This isn't a painting that's one of a kind. This is a collection of stuff that you may have some interest in some of it, but a majority of it you need to flip to be able to get some of your money back. So I took a beating on the collection. Now, thank God I had the collection, because had I not had it, I don't know where I'd be right now. But I took a beating. Oh boy, did I take a beating on the amount of money that I lost on that. But it was able to save the situation with my family member, and for a while save myself. Because I felt that in January, when the salary came back from the solar company, that I'd be able to do this. Well, then January comes, and find out that the salary still isn't coming back. Well, I was banking on that salary. The guy who told me he'd take care of me still has not taken care of me. I get, excuse after excuse after excuse. So, I'm technically still employed with that company, but I haven't really done anything. One, because I'm not going to. You promised me one thing, you give me your word, and you renege on it, and then make it like, it was out of your control. No, it was in your control. You chose not to. And number two, even if the salary was there, I wouldn't have time to do it anyway right now with what I got going on where I'm at. So I had to dip into one of my retirement accounts, didn't have a choice. But if I get promoted at the job I'm at now, I should be okay, and in a few years I'll be back to being debt-free, with the exception of my mortgage, obviously. And that's where we're at as far as that goes. So I've got a ways to go, but again, being resilient my whole life, being able to, it's real easy to curl up in the fetal position and just give up. Just give up. Throw your hands in the air and just give up. It's not something my mom ever did growing up as a single parent, and I think I get that from her, being able to just fight and keep on fighting. It's a challenge. It's not fun. This is kind of a tiny bit of it to see if I can come out on the other side fine, but it's not fun. I'll tell you that right now. This is not fun. So that's what's gone on so far as we hit middle of March of 2020. Now, I'm making this video to explain to all of you what happened to me and where I was. I was not in the best of moods, obviously. It's not like I was jumping for joy based on this situation. I didn't feel like dealing with Kingdom Hearts videos. Was I still playing the game? Yes. But was I making videos? No. I literally, for about a week, until I figured out, I would literally come home from work, go right to bed. I was just depressed. Right from work, right to bed. I wouldn't eat. I wouldn't play video games. I really wouldn't do a thing. I'd just go to sleep. And I'd sit there and try to figure out as much as I could what I would have to do to try to get myself out of this situation. I worked every angle I could in my head. And for those of you who really know me, you know how analytical I am, so it wasn't that hard for me to do. I just ran through different ideas, rapid fire, until I came to the only logical one I could, which was to sell the video game collection and then take out, and then when 2020 hit and I realized I wasn't getting the salary and I had been duped, I had to dip into the, dip into the thingamajig. Now, the lessons it's taught me is, at this point, and one of the people that I work with make a really great point. Now, half of me says, well, if money wasn't the issue, I wouldn't be agreeing with this. I now have to put myself on a stricter budget than I've ever really had to before, until I can work my way back up the corporate ladder of the industry that I'm in. It's getting some used to, getting a little bit used to, but I'm still doing what I can do. But at the same time, he's right. At the end of the day, you could want all the things, but they're just things. And at the end of the day, when you die, it just gets divided amongst the living anyway. So, some of you may be asking, well, geez, you had a zillion games. What are you going to do now? Well, here's what I should have done in the first place. What I should have done in the first place was just buy a RetroPie. That's what I did for $500. I have a RetroPie emulator system that literally has every console and every game that ever came out for those consoles all the way up to Dreamcast, including PS1. For $500, I have access to all the games that were ever made for pretty much every system you can think of. Wonder Swan, Neo Geo Pocket Color, PS1, Dreamcast, 64, DS, PSP, PS1, Genesis, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, the Super Nintendo Class. I mean, yeah, they're ROMs, and yeah, they're emulators, and yeah, they're not the same exact as the original. And yeah, you don't have a physical copy of them, but you know what? $500. There we go. Now, am I still collecting? Yes. I recently was able to acquire a big chunk of what I gave up. I wanted to go back to, when I first started collecting, I wanted to go back to my collection before I started to collect. Just what I had accumulated throughout my life that I didn't sell. You know, stuff that I had held on to, like PS2 games, like Tekken 4, for instance. Easy stuff. Sports games, like NBA Live 05. Whatever I had in my collection up until the day I decided to really try to collect everything I could. So I have probably 90 to 92% of that back. And then Mortal Kombat stuff, Assassin's Creed stuff, Kingdom Hearts, God of War, those Dead or Alive, Soul Calibur, those fighting games, those game series. And I'm still and then I'm going to try to get back all the Mario and Sonic stuff I gave up. And that's it. Other than that, that's where we're at. If a new Kingdom Hearts game comes out, I'll get it. Likewise with God of War, likewise with Tekken and Mortal Kombat and all that stuff. Assassin's Creed, obviously. But that's it. And that's where I'm at with that. So I'm driving back from North Carolina now. I was able to procure a lot of the stuff. And I got another probably hour or so until I'm home. So that's what's going on with that. Now, as far as the football gift cards, I want to say thank you to a lot of people who had commented, people who have been with the channel a long time, people who, even beginner people who had some really kind words. Only one person, I'm not going to name who it is, but only one person was focused on when am I sending out the gift cards that they had won. That person knows who they are. They're the only ones that were doing it. So I'm not going to name it who it is. It shows people's true colors, I guess. Now, would I sit here and say, well, I'm not going to send them out? No, of course not. I promised I would when I made the previous video, and I still will. So what I need all of you to do that won the gift cards is just email me at andyvhb@aol.com up until I stopped. Obviously, I'm not paying anything else out. But when I made that video saying I'm done with YouTube, we need to figure out who won the gift cards and then send me an email. Jay Willie, if you can go back, if you have some free time, I know you're swamped, but if you can go back and try to find out who won gift cards for those 13 weeks or whatever it was, send me a message, that'd be great. Or if yes to anything that is cool, awesome, I trust you as well. You can go back if you have the time and just try to figure out who won what. That'd be nice. That saved me a whole...
In a quarter mile, use the left 2 lanes to keep left at the fork and stay on I-26 West.
There you go. So that's as far as that goes. Now, what's going on with this channel? Well, I'm going to upload this video, but as far as YouTube goes, there's really no reason for me to...
Use the left 2 lanes to keep left at the fork and stay on I-26 West.
Okay. Just want to make sure I'm going where I need to go here. Am I in Knoxville now?
Keep left at the fork to continue on US 74 West.
Okay. Sorry, guys. Hold on. Yeah, I am in Knoxville.
Continue for 50 miles.
Yeah. Okay, I know where I am. So, as far as this channel goes, hey, look, I hit over 5,000 subs. That's unbelievable. You know, I'm not just saying, look at me. I'm, you know, but the fact that, you know, people and EDP and people are still, you know, subbed and didn't just disband and unsubscribe, I mean, that's kind of cool. What I'll do on this channel, I guess I'll have some gameplay videos on here. But I had an ASMR channel that I was starting with a buddy of mine. He moved away, so I took over the channel, and I don't know what I'm going to do with it, change the name of it. It was the ASMR Collector, but now that I'm really not a collector anymore, per se, I don't know if I just keep the name, it's easy, and just do ASMR videos on that. I don't know, I'll have to see. I've got all the equipment, so the cool thing is, I'll be able to do it and you know, get started in that. That's something I'd want to do. For those of you who love the scratch ticket videos, I think I'm going to do some scratch ticket ASMR videos, so you guys can check that out on the channel. Go for the ASMR Collector. You'll see the icon in the background of the channel is a ton of video games. You'll see it, and you'll recognize what my garage used to look like, or my game room garage, but I called it the game room, what it used to look like. Go and sub that channel. That'd be great. ASMR Collector. I have a ton of videos I'm planning on doing as far as that goes. I have a couple of unboxings that are video games / TV / movie related. I will be doing scratch ticket videos on that channel, ASMR style. I've got a ton of show and tell videos I'm going to do. Maybe a couple of role plays. So check that channel out. Sub if you already have. Great. If you haven't, please do that. Build up a following there. Occasionally I will put some gameplay videos on this channel. Maybe some announcements or other stuff. Whatever that case is, I'll be doing that. But I just wanted to give all of you guys an update on what's going on. So I'm pulling myself slowly but surely out of this mess. The coronavirus helped a couple of things. One, I don't feel as badly as taking the money out in one of my retirement accounts as I normally would have, because literally the stocks have plummeted and plummeted and plummeted. I remember my mom in 07, 08 when the economy crashed. I remember my mom telling me she lost half her 401k, which was at that time almost $500,000 she lost. So I didn't have anywhere close to that. Obviously, I'd been saving for like 6 or 7 years, but you can imagine, you know, if this keeps going on, the way the stocks have reacted, you know, and yeah, they'll eventually come back, but I don't have a million years to wait for them to come back. I mean, if I start saving again now in the 401k with this new company, and they match, which is great. Speaking of which, that should be coming any second now. It's been 90 days since I've worked there, so I think my next pay period, I'll have the 401k start with the match, which is nice. But yeah, I have time. You know, I have time. I'm just going to be on a stricter budget. It's real simple. I'll still be able to make a good living, especially living in Tennessee, where there's the sales tax is a little higher. But you guys, you know, if you've never lived in the Northeast, you have no clue on what it's like. No state income tax. I'll take no state income tax over 3% extra over an extra 30 cents every $10. You know, I mean, come on, even 50 cents. You know, I'll take an extra 50 cents here and there over, you know, $4,000 or $6,000 for the year. So let's call it what it is. On top of the fact that the property taxes are a quarter of what they are up where I'm from and everything else. So that's what's going on with me. That's what had been going on with me. What happened to my channel, what will continue to happen with this specific channel, and then what I plan to do on YouTube going forward, which will be scratch tickets, ASMR style, and everything else. I will be sending out the football gift cards. Somebody's got to figure this out for me and email me exactly what's going on and how many gift cards I owe and to who. And don't try to lie to me and say I owe you $1 million, because I'm going to run this by, whatever emails I get, I'll run by the people I trust the most, and we'll see what's going on with that. So that I will pay out. I promised it in the last video, and I will stick to that promise, because I have not lied to anybody yet about what I've done on the channel itself. I think for those of you who have stuck with me on this channel, you know I'm a man of my word. So that's as far as that goes. And that's pretty much it. The one, I have a couple of regrets. Obviously, for the ASMR channel, I wasn't able to show off my entire collection. I wasn't able to do a game room tour for you guys. Obviously, selling the entire collection, something I worked my ass off for 8 years for, was a big gut punch. But, the more I thought about it, maybe it's a blessing in disguise. God forbid. First of all, moving all that stuff down to Tennessee was a nightmare in the first place. And then secondly, if I ever had to move or, get promoted or whatever the case may be, and I had to move all my crap again, maybe it's a good thing I don't have as much. So, that's kind of the way I feel about that. And that's where we're at. So this has been going on long enough. I appreciate it. If you guys watch this whole thing, I really appreciate it. Share the ASMR channel. It's the ASMR Collector. You'll see it. I think I have about 248 subs, if I'm not mistaken, but I haven't put anything on there in a couple months either. I'll still be playing Kingdom Hearts on my phone. Played Shenmue 3. It's another story for another day. Not real thrilled about that. And yeah, that's where we're at. So thanks guys for watching, and if you have any questions, feel free to comment in the comments. I will answer as many as I can. And I may throw a couple other videos on like movies I've seen, updates on that, TV shows I've seen, series I've seen. Jay Willie got me a poster a good 2 years ago, and I finally have had time to be able to watch. It's the top 100 movies of all time poster, where you get to scratch off after you watch a movie, and there's a little picture or icon of that movie that will make you remember the movie. I've seen a lot of movies I normally never would have, because I have OCD. I got to go through the whole poster. I've seen A Clockwork Orange. Not really a fan of that. But I'll do a top 100 when I'm done with the movie poster itself. I'll do a review of the poster and all the movies I've seen, and show you what they are, and go over all that with you guys. But thanks for watching again. Check out the ASMR Collector. I'll be uploading majority of the videos on that channel going forward. Stay subscribed to this one, because I will have updates and stuff on this channel as well. And that's where we're at, So appreciate you guys, and we'll see you soon.